Welcome to Key Conversations, the podcast where we talk about all the things to inspire you to create an awesome, fulfilling music career. This season, we are talking about the entire process of how to release a record the right way, or at least just not the wrong way, because I think there are a lot of right ways to do that. Today, I am very excited to have my friend and the genius senior content manager of CD Baby, Chris Robley, here with us. So thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. And many right ways, no wrong way. Well, wrong ways too. But
there are many wrong ways, but also many right ways. So I'm just sharing sort of my process, how I've done it with my new record, Luminary, and it worked. I set some really specific milestones, and that's how we know specific milestones are a good thing, because then you know if the stuff you're doing works or not. You can't just say, I want more fans, because you get one more fan. Did it work? Or like, should you keep doing the stuff that you did, or should you change? So milestones are great.
Right. And you also know exactly what to ask your fans to do when you have those in your mind.
Yeah. A big part of my whole thing was sort of educating my fans, because I picked this random goal to like get on charts and stuff like that. And people were like, what's a Billboard chart? What's an Amazon chart? What does it mean? Like, what do I need to do? And I love that question. But a lot of times I didn't have an answer. I'm like, just tell your friends about. No, here's what you need to do. You need to go buy this on 3 places. Here. We'll get to promotion in a later episode. Stay tuned for that. Today, Chris, I know you run the blog and you co-host the CD Baby podcast, and a bunch of other things, which I'm happy to hear about. Tell me what else you do.
Oh, all sorts of things. Copywriting, guides, product testing for CD Baby, any number of things. I've been there for 14 years, so the titles get a little amorphous after a while. But
sure. And your favorite guide that you ever got to co-produce with someone was which one?
Was the email marketing guide written by you.
Awesome. Guys, I did not prompt him or pay him to say that, but he knows that I'd find him and cut him.
Yes. And which, by the way, we need to do a little follow-up to get some promo for that.
We're totally going to do that. Because I like to talk. So podcasts are my favorite place. So you do a lot of things, which is awesome, but that also means that you know about a lot of things. And today I specifically want to talk about show.co. I have been getting a lot of questions, and I struggled with figuring out, how do I do this? And I figured it out, but I'm like, let's do this as a conversation. Let's talk about show.co, what the heck it is, why is it tied to CD Baby, and how can an artist really, really optimize that tool when releasing a record or a single, possibly. So Can you give us like the nutshell of what that is for anyone that hasn't heard of it? And then we'll go into a little bit deeper of how to really optimize it.
Yeah, I can try. So show.co does lots of different things, but the sort of the summary, I think, is that it's a suite of marketing tools that helps musicians build conversion-focused marketing and promotion campaigns. And I think maybe an easy way to sum that up is what you were talking about before, is having a goal or a milestone in mind and knowing exactly what to ask your fans to do. That is kind of what show.co helps you streamline in your own imagination. And when you're building something, it's like, you got to know what your goal is. You have to know what you're asking them to do. And you have to know sort of what a reward would be, or what a compelling argument or hook would be to get your fan to take this action. So that's kind of what show.co is in general. Some of the specific things you can do with it is boost your YouTube subscribers, drive YouTube views, a whole bunch of things on Spotify. You can build your Spotify following, boost streams, pre-saves. It's quite a few things. There's an email collection tool where you can reward people for providing an email, SoundCloud players, all sorts of stuff. And then I'm sure we'll get into this later, but there's a whole ad component as well. Some tools that help you run audio ads on Spotify, iHeartRadio, run banner ads on big music sites like Pitchfork and Brooklyn Vegan and Billboard, MTV, Rolling Stone, all those places. So
Yeah. I think the main thing that I've heard people using show.co for is, it's the thing you got to use for the pre-save campaign to have people pre-save your album on Spotify so that the day that the record drops, it shows up in all these release radar playlists, which is really good for the algorithms. And that's like why you need show.co, because there's only a couple companies that can get you access to do that. Show.co being one of maybe 3, I think I've heard. So that is that's been the thing I heard. So when you said, oh, you can grow YouTube followers, I'm like, oh, I as a show.co user, I didn't even know that.
Oh, well,
And yeah, not even through the ads, right? Like
that's just one of the free campaigns. But you're totally right. I mean, the pre-save thing has been kind of the premier thing that's captured everyone's attention. When CD Baby acquired show.co, because we noticed that like major labels, major artists, Maroon 5, Tovlo, Britney Spears, were all using it to do various things, but most of them were focused on trying to use it to build their Spotify following. And I think the most compelling case of that was the band Oasis, who is, I'm pretty sure, inactive, hasn't put out music in a while. So they were like, how do we kind of take this dead catalog and get people to care about it again on Spotify? So they used show.co. They had crazy conversion rates, something like 90%, which, if people listening, if they understand marketing, that is a weird miracle.
Yeah.
So that's what attracted CD Baby to this as a platform. And we said, we should scoop this up and give it to our clients for free. So CD Baby clients can use it, without paying any cost. If you use the ad builder stuff, obviously you have to pay a budget to advertise, but most of the things I mentioned earlier are all free.
All free. And that's not even CD Baby Pro. That's just if you're a CD Baby member.
Yep.
Very cool.
And in fact, here's a little tip. You really don't even have to be a client. You just have to have an account with us. So if you really want to use show.co, just create a CD Baby account, and then you can go through your CD Baby dashboard to initiate the show.co free version of the account.
Insider tip, people.
Insider tip.
You can only hear it here and anywhere else that Chris has said it.
Right.
Great. So when you say 90% conversion rate, this is interesting because was that through running ads or different something else?
So it was, what's their record label? Ignition Records, I think. They were the ones running it for Oasis. And I'm not sure if they did paid ads, but I think what they did was simply used their email, their social to reach their existing followers, drive those people to the landing page of the pre-save landing page or it wouldn't have been pre-save, probably a follow campaign they were doing. But anyways, they drove to a landing page, a show.co landing page, and then 90% of the people that hit that page converted, which is... Meaning
they did the thing that the page was asking them to do. That's exactly what a conversion is, right?
Yeah.
And that's super crazy. I know a lot of really good landing pages in the marketing world, they say between 40 and 60% is like extraordinary. So 90% is like astronomically like, yes.
Right. Now, of course, it's Oasis. They were an enormous band. They have a huge following. They also, part of the kind of the key to the success, I think, was they had really cool rewards. And I think there was various like limited edition box sets you could be entered in to win. That's another thing I didn't mention, but it's, you basically get the data of the people who engage with your campaign and you can use that to run a contest, and stuff like that. So they had good rewards. They had a name, but still, just because they have a name doesn't mean 90% of the people are necessarily going to convert. And in this case, they did.
Yeah, no, it's still a super high conversion rate. I mean, I think the whole point of advertising and sending people to a landing page is sending the right people that are most likely to convert. And so the people in marketing that are doing that well are sending the right people there. So 90% is still really high even for people in marketing. So I want to talk about, split the rest of this conversation up into two parts. One, talking about using show.co before you have music released, and then using show.co after music is released. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what I did before my release, and I'm not using show.co anymore, so I'm really curious about the second part of this conversation. But the first thing that I did was I said, I didn't have a lot of followers on Spotify. It just hasn't been something that I was focusing on. DIY, you're wearing multiple hats. Some things fall through the cracks. So for me, that was Spotify. So I knew that I wanted to get followers so that the day of the release, they would get this release radar. So I ran a thing that said, click here. I created a little page on show.co and it said, click here to follow on Spotify and you'll get entered in to win a sweatshirt, a customized sweatshirt. I had a bunch of different options that someone could pick and choose. And what I also decided that I wanted to add was, if you don't listen to Spotify or you don't want to do this, you can still put your email in for free and you'll still get entered to win this contest. So that means I also got all these new people to subscribe onto my mailing list for those that didn't use Spotify, because some people don't.
Totally.
So that's how I used it. And I think that was really successful. It was cool to see. Some people's release radar showed up a couple days later. It's not all on the same day. I've learned that later, and I was so nervous the first day that I'm like, only 12 people. God. So I want to hear, what are some other ways other than, hey, pre-save on Spotify, pre-save the record, that you can use Show.co for before the release date of the record?
Well, so first, I would like to say you did at least 3 things right in that campaign. And one is you had a good reward. You said it was like a custom sweatshirt, right? So you knew simply asking someone to pre-save your music or to follow you might not be enough. And I feel like that's the first thing artists should understand, is just asking someone to pre-save, or maybe they will, maybe they won't, but just think about a hook. You got to entice them to take the action. So you did that well. Understanding that before you can guarantee anyone will hear your music on Spotify, you have to build your following. And that's valuable, not just if you're doing a pre-save, but Spotify has a direct submission process. Did you do that?
Yeah. Okay. You can, through Spotify for Artists, I think it's actually spotifyforartists.com. You create your campaign, claim yourself as an artist if you have music out there already, and then you can submit one of your songs. It has to be at least 7 days before the release for consideration to be on one of their editorial playlists. That's what Chris is talking about.
Yeah, and the real benefit of that, because the editorial coverage is kind of a crapshoot, but the thing it does guarantee is that your followers on Spotify will get it in their release radar playlist once it's out. But again, if you don't have followers, that sort of direct submission step becomes a little bit worthless. So that was the other thing you did right. You knew you needed to have followers first, so it's good that you spent your time doing that.
And the cool thing, just in a pre-save campaign, I just want to add this in, is that you can have it, you can select the choice so that when someone saves your record, they also follow you, and it's one click. You don't have to have them go into Spotify and do all these things. And when they click on it, Spotify, a little window from Spotify comes up and says, "Are you sure you want to do blah blah blah?" Like, they have to do that. But that's kind of cool that they only have to click once and they don't have to open the app even. So
totally. And actually, that reminds me of the other thing I was thinking you did right, which was also enabling that function that on top of your primary goal, which was the Spotify follow, you also allowed them to give an email if they're not on Spotify, because like you said, like, you can't assume your followers are there. They might prefer Apple Music or Amazon Music. So good you did that. But let's see. But if we take it outside of Spotify or outside of pre-saves and follows, there's also something called Stream to Unlock. Did you try that one out?
I did not.
It's basically similar kind of campaign structure, but you reward someone who streams your music on Spotify, and they have to get to at least 30 seconds of streaming it before it unlocks the reward. Because
this is a post-release.
The post-release. Oh yeah, we're sticking on pre-release, aren't we?
I was going to. I mean, we're loosey-goosey over here. We can do whatever. But I was just, that's how I was thinking about it. I get a lot of questions on what to do with the release and then how do you use it after you release. So I thought maybe we could do it that way.
Yeah. Well, some other Spotify or Show.co campaign types is the email to unlock thing, which is an email capture. And that reward could be, enter them into a contest. It could be that it automatically redirects them to anywhere else online. So that could be an unlisted YouTube video, could be, a special sort of bonus content page on your website. And those same rewards can basically be offered for any of these campaign types. If you want someone to subscribe on YouTube, or if you want someone to do any of those Spotify goals, the reward can always be the same: a contest, unlock hidden content, stuff like that. So
cool.
Yeah.
Can you do the pre-saves and the ads and all the things before a single is released? So if you're not doing a record, but you're doing a single.
Yep. Yeah. A pre-save, I think is, I mean, I always actually think of it as something you do with a single. You can do it with an album, of course, but I think at that point, people have usually engaged with several single releases adding up to it. So I think it's really good to do in conjunction with singles. Yes.
Cool.
You can actually, well, I'll leave that for later.
Okay.
Stick on the post-release thing.
Let's see if there's any more pre-release things that people could potentially ask. You can do it with singles. You can do it with records. You can do campaigns. You can do just growing your email list. And, the bigger your email list, and this is something I always talk about, the more you're sitting on a gold mine, and the more opportunities you have to be so much more effective in selling, because email is just eons more effective than a single email is way more effective than a single social post. So that's great to grow. Spotify's great to grow because then they get all the stuff the day that your thing's released or a couple days after. And even YouTube followers, it's like if you need at least 1,000 subscribers, not followers, subscribers, in order to get paid for your music, in order to put ads on and get paid for when your music is on not only your videos, but anyone's videos. If you don't have 1,000 subscribers and someone makes a cat video with your song, which is awesome, and they put an ad on it, you're not getting paid for that until you have 1,000 subscribers is how I believe that works.
You can still monetize content that's on other people's channels that are monetized.
Oh, not your own.
So you could potentially still be earning money even if you don't, but it has to be based on the usage of your music on other people's videos and channels.
So the reason you want the 1,000 subscribers is so that you can start to monetize your channel.
Your own, exactly.
Your own channel. Okay, so cool. Thank you for that. So
you did remind me of one other thing you could do leading up to a release. If you have a video to go with a single, there's a really nice way on Show.co to premiere, I guess you could say, a YouTube video, and it's a clutter-free, really nice looking page that puts your video front and center. If you go to YouTube to watch a video, you've got 7,000 distractions on the side. They want you to, go down the rabbit hole. This gets rid of all the clutter. It keeps people's attention really focused on your video, and you can have sort of supporting background imagery that makes a nice vibe. And then there's something on those kinds of campaigns called conversion cards, which is basically a number of goals you could have as someone watches the video. And that could be follow on Twitter, Facebook, link to Spotify, Apple Music, any of that sort of stuff. So you can kind of set these goals that are secondary to someone coming in and experiencing your video, but you're also using the video to make a clutter-free environment. So your, goals that come back to serving your music career are in front of them rather than those 5 or 6 other YouTube videos they want you to watch.
Yeah, totally. I love that. That's super cool. And that's a great idea. Maybe you can even access that page. Like you said, if they do one thing, like sign up for your mailing list, and they're the one, they get special access to that video. That's a really cool way to sneak it out even earlier than the premiere day. It sounds like
now you're that's very meta. Now you're layering several Show.co campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is turning into an Inception conversation. We're just going to get deep. Awesome. Okay, so now let's shift and go laser through what can we do with Show.co once our album's released. And it's not about pre-saves anymore. It's not about getting people to follow us in order to have that, release radar on Spotify. What are the things that you would do, like Oasis did with their back catalog that's already out there, already released?
Yeah, so I mean, the most obvious one I probably already mentioned, which is Stream to Unlock, which is now that your music's out, listen to it. If it gets to that 30-second mark and you're still listening, well, good. Now the prize opens up, or the hidden experience, the thing gets unlocked. And the relevance of the 30-second mark is that's what Spotify considers a monetizable stream. So, if someone stops listening at 27 seconds, you don't make any money. But that's one thing to do. And again, the sort of reward or the hook can be any of those things we mentioned before: special edition box set contest, your sweatshirt idea, stuff like that.
Maybe a discount code to your merch store.
Yeah, that works. Good. Yeah, I like this conversation.
This is good. Yeah, we're brainstorming here. I mean, this is like, take out your notes. Hope you're not driving on tour, guys. But if you are, you can come back.
Yeah, there's also there's a campaign type, I'm forgetting what it's actually called now, but it's basically add this song that is already out to your queue or your library sort of thing. So that's another thing. Once the music is out, you can still kind of be getting traction for it on Spotify. If you're in hip hop or the EDM world and really focused on SoundCloud, there are SoundCloud campaigns. Once a song is up on SoundCloud, you can use that as the either as the reward, drive someone there, or create a similar sort of thing to what I talked about with the YouTube type campaign, where it's a distraction-free place to listen to a SoundCloud player. So
this is really cool. I feel like once you release the record, then it's like, don't forget about my record. For me, my strategy was all about engaging with individual fans and getting new people to purchase the record ahead of time, so that anyone that was ever going to purchase the record through me purchased it before it released. And my post-release strategy was, now let's go talk to podcasts and to Spot. It's a new age record, right? So talk to, spas and companies and start to do the branding thing versus the individual thing. So that was just sort of my strategy. But now I'm like, oh, and then whenever I get a podcast or a spot, then I would tell my fans about it and be like, we're doing awesome here. Hey, it's still on the Amazon charts. That's cool. Like all the stuff would just be news. But this is a really cool way to be like, hey, for those of you who didn't get it, I have a thing for you, or go listen here. Or, hey, if you're already listening, why not get entered into this contest because you're already listening to the record. So there's like so many different ways to phrase that, which is getting me really excited about changing my strategy.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm trying to think of some, there's been bigger artists like REO Speedwagon and Sigur Rós that I think have used it, post-release to do like VIP ticket giveaways and things like that. So, if you're a touring artist or you're promoting something that's already come out, you can always think about those things to offer through show.co. But again, it comes back to what's your goal going to be afterwards? Is it to keep getting people to hit those songs on Spotify, or do you want to boost your email?
Yeah.
Get them to watch a YouTube video. So
Awesome.
It kind of comes back to knowing what that initial goal is.
Yeah. I love that we're getting big picture, zoom out. I love a good milestone. Any last things, big picture, small picture, micro, any tips or anything for musicians that are like, okay, yeah, I need to get myself going with show.co?
Yeah, a few things. I mean, I think campaign success is partially about the great hook, but photos are also pretty important. And I've seen some really terrible looking show.co campaigns because they're easy to create. But if you don't start with a good picture, it's not going to look great. That being said, I don't think you have to get super carried away. Like a lot of times something very minimalist can be effective. So just think about the aesthetics, what's pleasing to the eye. Also planting mystery in the call to action, or in the, or rather not the call to action, but sort of in the headline, I think is important. And I always point out our friend Kevin Bruner's band had a show.co campaign, which I still love, where his headline was, "Hear the song that got us kicked off stage."
Yep.
And I thought that's just such a great example of like, I don't even know if I like or care about this band, but now I want to hear it. So think about something that really is like planting that little bit of dissonance in someone's mind. And in order to resolve the tension, they have to take the action. Should also mention show.co landing pages are, you're able to include your remarketing code. So something like a Facebook pixel or Google retargeting stuff can be put there. And that, I don't know if you've talked about that a lot with your audience, but basically it allows people to, or allows you rather, to track the activity and the sort of user habits of your audience. So not only do you know that, Joe Smith came and pre-saved your song on Spotify, but now you're telling Google and Facebook that Joe Smith took that sort of an action. So you want to, when you want to reach Joe Smith in the future, to maybe either do a similar campaign or maybe to follow up with some, the next step in the journey that relates to that song that he pre-saved, you know how to reach him through paid advertising. So, not only should you have your Facebook pixel on your own website, but you can put it on external sorts of sites like show.co, and then it's basically acting like a way to, track your audience's behavior.
I love that. Tracking, it's data, right? And data is the stuff that tells you, it's like why we have a milestone goal, is tells you what worked and what didn't work, so that we can do more of what worked, less of what didn't work.
Yeah, and I guess if I should also quell someone's fears if they think it's getting super creepy Facebook spy. It's not that, you're not going to see Joe Smith's name, but Facebook knows what Joe Smith did. And so now you can reach them through paid advertising. There isn't a whole lot of, you can't track it to the individual, but,
right.
but they certainly are.
Yeah. You just reminded me of something that I wanted to ask. When you're running Facebook ads through your Facebook page manager, your ads are only hitting, and this sounds dumb, but Facebook and Instagram. But when you're running ads, whether it's before you release or after release through show.co, you sort of touched on this, but you are going everywhere but Facebook. Is that correct?
Yeah, so show.co is the ad builder side of it, and ad builder is the name of the tool within show.co to run paid ads. It's a way to sort of, it's sort of the easy button of reaching music fans in the places they're likely to be off of social platforms. So it's on a lot of premier music blogs. I mentioned a lot of them already, like Pitchfork, Brooklyn Vegan, Rolling Stone, MTV. But there's quite a huge list of these sites, and it can get very, very genre niche, which is good. So, if you're a blues artist or whatever, then you can kind of target it that way and know that, probably Pitchfork isn't the place for you, but you can reach the places that are where your audience is likely to be. So, yeah.
Very cool. I'm trying to think if I have any other questions that I want to know about Show.co other than, will you set me up all my campaigns? I'm really excited. I think that there's a lot of stuff to do, especially post-release. I was thinking, we're going to have all these pre-release campaign talks, but now it's really exciting to see that you can sort of plan long-term with this, and also know that you can engage your fans with different ways. You may want to rethink, when are you running contests? What kind of prizes are the contests? If you're so I introduced this sweatshirt into my merch store as the contest for the pre-save and pre-follow. But now that I have it in the store, now I can maybe say, hey, you can get a discount on this thing that I already created. Here's a code or whatever. So my little hamsters in my brain are spinning and running all the laps.
Yeah. You said you've interviewed Jason Hobbs on this podcast before. Is that true?
Yeah. We talked about Foundy specifically. I think he was, that was season 3.
Did he mention the Santana case related to Show.co, the ad builder?
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember.
So one of the great things about Show.co's ad builder, not only does it make it just really easy to create and launch banner ad and audio ad campaigns, but it's very affordable compared to, if you were trying to buy these ads directly, it'd be super cost prohibitive. So we have really low minimums. So you can run a banner ad campaign for your music for, I think it's $20. If you're doing Spotify audio ads or iHeartRadio audio ads, it's a minimum of $50. And that's really, really cheap for a minimum when it comes to advertising. So it makes it affordable. But the rates that we get, the sort of the results you get for that spend have been really, really impressive too. And I bring up the Santana example because I think the campaign that his team ran, they saved 75% on what they would have gotten had they run it through sort of their previous means of doing online ads. So it gets cheaper results. I guess I should set realistic expectations when people run ads on Spotify.
Yeah.
That is a ad ecosystem where the only people hearing the ads are people who aren't paying to hear music. They get the free service with the ad-supported listening. So it's not necessarily a place you're going to run your first Spotify ad campaign and get huge results and be super psyched about. And in fact, I think part of it is I don't know, just setting realistic expectations. And, even artists I really respect, Andrew Bird or whoever else, they run these things and you see what they do. And it's like, oh yeah, they spend a decent amount of money to get results that on the face of things aren't that exciting. But the reason it's still an important thing to do, probably two reasons. I think it sort of creates a halo effect when you're also doing other things to promote your music. And now you just have this other place where it's reinforcing the story of your release and stuff, which can be important. But also Spotify notices. And when you do that direct submission thing we mentioned earlier, and you mentioned that you have a budget for advertising and you plan to either be driving ads off platform, say through Facebook or whatever, to Spotify, or you're going to be spending money that is for Spotify ads that run on Spotify, they do notice. They take it, they might take you a little more seriously that you have a plan. So it's kind of all part of the package. But all that being said, Spotify ads can be really effective if you are targeting super local. So if you're, you got a tour and you want to hit the regional markets of places, that is probably the best usage of them I've seen. And what's the name of that band? New Language is an LA rock band that has had really good results doing Spotify ads that help them sell out venues. And they don't play that often. So it's good for them to use these tools to pack out a club.
That's awesome. Yeah. And Jason Hobbs, who we were mentioning, founded Foundy, found.ee, which is the engine behind Show.co, but it's also a company. Episode 314 is when Jason and I talked about why it's such a great platform specifically for musicians. it also acts as a link shortener, which collects data. So similar to Bitly, but and Smart URL, but it's actually collecting the data that Facebook or another advertising platform would use to retarget to the people that have clicked on those links. It's super genius. And now it's the engine behind show.co. So that's why we're talking about that, because it's all connected.
Yep. And that pixel functionality is not only for external remarketing of Facebook and Google stuff, but there's a pixel functionality within the show.co sort of ecosystem. So
yeah,
that activity is all you can return to.
Yeah, which is really awesome. So this has been really great and eye-opening for me. I hope this answers the question for a lot of musicians that are like, I know there's this thing, show.co. I know I can use it for my, to my advantage. But so where do they go to sign up for show.co? Is it just their CD Baby account or?
Yeah, exactly. So if they're CD Baby clients, or if they want to use show.co for free, they should go to their CD Baby dashboard or create one through cdbaby.com. And right on the front page, there's a little banner that says free marketing tools. Click that and it will sort of initiate the account from show.co, and then they can get in there and start using it.
So awesome. And how do we find you if we want to hang out with you on the internet?
How do you find me? Well, if you want to read bloggy music biz stuff, you can go to the DIY Musician blog, which you should.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if you want to check out my music, it's chrisrobley.com.
All right. Well, that will all be in the show notes. And for anyone that wants to see the massive Excel spreadsheet, which I use through Airtable, of how I planned my whole entire release that this whole podcast this season is based on, go to inthekey.co/release template to get a free template that has literally everything you could possibly want in terms of organizing your record release, which is kind of fun and also completely OCD. So
I need to go check that out now.
Yeah, it's fun. So Chris, thank you so much for this. I know we got super micro, but also had some good macro stuff here. I hope this was helpful for musicians. And it's always fun to talk to you. So
yeah, you too. Thanks so much for having me on.
Awesome.